Hello and welcome to episode 129 of Magic Rays of Light, a podcast exploring the world of Apple TV and so much more. I'm your host, Sigmund Judge, and whilst Devon is away this week catching some Magic Rays of Light of another kind, I have the pleasure of being joined by friend, YouTuber, and co-host of Mac Story's Comfort Zone podcast, Christopher Lawley. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's nice to be on. I guess what would we would be sibling podcasts now since we're all under the Mac Stories banner?
Absolutely. And I feel like we both started with very different niches, because I first came to find you on social media through your iPad coverage. You had the Untitled podcast, which was a lot of fun, a Slab of Glass as well. So you've been podcasting for many, many years now.
Yes. Slab of Glass was the first podcast I had. And then I started the YouTube channel even before that. But yeah, I've been doing this for a little while now, and then took a little break, and now I'm back with Comfort Zone, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, it's a fantastic podcast. But you are here to talk with me about Apple TV. So what has your relationship been with Apple TV specifically? Is it the app? Is it the Apple TV hardware itself? Or is it the originals? When you think Apple TV, you think one of those, or do you think about them all?
It's kind of a little bit of everything, I guess. I started with the hardware of the Apple TV, not with the first generation one, the one that was basically like a Mac Mini with RCA plugs. The second one that was the 720p, black box. And started with that. That was kind of like my Netflix machine and stuff like that. But I didn't use it a ton because I had an XBMC server or XBMC machine that literally had my whole movie library. Now they're called Kodi, but I had that, and that was my primary way of watching movies and TV shows. Is I would buy DVDs and stuff, and I'd rip them, and I had a server, and that got a little bit too much to maintain for a little while, so I quit using that. And when the Apple TV got refreshed and Tim Cook told us the future of TV is apps and all that stuff, I kind of went all in on that for a while and used that for different streaming services. But then I migrated my XBMC, Kodi server, whatever you want to call it. I thought XBMC was a much better name. I moved all that over to Plex and started using Plex on the Apple TV. But then the machine that was running that server for me just died, and I was kind of realizing I was spending more time maintaining that than I was actually watching stuff. So I went all in on just like buying movies through the iTunes movie library, and just being able to like, hey, here's everything that I have in this one place. And then I had a few movies and a few different other services, so I used Movies Anywhere to get those all into iTunes essentially, and kind of watched everything through Apple TV. And then fast forward a few years, Apple launched Apple TV Plus. I've been watching originals and stuff through there. I've been extremely busy the last few months because I've been moving and Apple events and all sorts of different things. The most recent Apple TV series that I have finished was Monarch, and I absolutely love that. I loved Monarch.
Yeah. Big fan of the Monsterverse over here as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great introduction, Christopher, and a great start to what's coming up on the show this week, because we'll be exploring our personal movie and TV viewing habits and pet peeves. We'll take a deeper dive into the latest additions to the 2024 release schedule for Apple Immersive Video, and our interest in possibly creating for spatial video and immersive video formats. Plus, a super niche app recommendation, the League's Cup returns this week, and our up next picks. But we start this week with our highlight on new Apple original family series, Time Bandits. 11-year-old Kevin's passion for history is put to the test when he joins a ragtag group of time-travelling thieves on a high-stakes and hilarious adventure in this epic reimagining of the iconic film.
You're stuck in the past, Kevin. You got to stop it with all these Vikings and the ancient geeks.
Greeks.
As well.
Mom, my wardrobe's moving. Whoa. Who are you guys?
We're the Time Bandits. Nothing is too big for us to steal. Oh, maybe it is too big to steal.
Do you have a map that can take us through time?
Run! What did everyone steal? I got this beautiful vase. Vase? Everyone got a vase?
Yeah.
Created for television by Jermaine Clement, Ian Morris and Taika Waititi, starring Lisa Kudrow, Kel El-Tuk, Taduk Murphy, Charlene Yee, Rachel House, Kira Thompson, James Dryden, Felicity Ward, Francesca Mills, and others. We had the opportunity to embark early on this comedic high-stakes journey through time and space with what is a ragtag group of thieves and their newest recruit, an 11-year-old history nerd, as they set out on what's to be a thrilling quest to save the boys' parents and the world. Christopher, I know you're a fan of the original film, or at least got to see it many, many moons ago. So when I told you that this was going to be our highlight for the week, I know you were incredibly excited. What did you think of this series adaptation, and what is the premise, and were there really any differences from what you remember of the original to what's being delivered here in what I think is a very, very entertaining family escapade?
Yeah, absolutely. So I saw the original one. I think I was in film school, so it would have been like 15, 20 years ago, in that range at some point. So suffice to say, I don't remember much of it, but I do remember the premise. I do remember the setup very well. And one thing that struck me is at least the setup of this show is very similar to the setup of the movie. People through time crash into a kid's bedroom, and it reminds me very much of like, and it's totally set up to be like this, but like this 80s era Spielberg, E.T., Goonies,
Yes.
Kid goes off on an adventure to like find and understand himself because he doesn't fit in and conform to the stereotypical norms. There's a joke in the first episode that I hope I'm not spoiling anything too much about, like the parents wanting the kid to play video games, and there's some noise being made, and like the parents are like, yeah, good job, you're finally playing video games, like woohoo. And I love those kinds of like setups for movies and TV shows and stuff like that, where it's like it's the kid's going off on an adventure, and like, yeah, he doesn't quite fit in. Not to play up the nerd stereotype, but I was definitely a nerd stereotype growing up, so like I just love those kind of setups. I definitely want to go back and revisit the original film. I was going to do it before we recorded, but unfortunately I just ran out of time. Pesky how time works. Maybe we need a couple of bandits.
I love it.
Yep, I will be here all week, people. My jokes are that bad.
No, I'm with you. I really love the premise of this because I feel like when you have that kind of, nerdy kid finds himself through an adventure that he always dreamt of but has no control over, I think that's just something that everyone can relate to at certain points in their life. Even maybe the jocks, back in the day. Everyone's got their moment. What I like about this is how today's norms are kind of perceived in Kevin's world. Mm-hmm. Everyone's obsessed with their phones.
Doesn't care about Stonehenge. Wants to know where the gift shop is. Yeah, absolutely. Talking of which, there is, of course, that comedic charm that we expect from Taika Waititi. That's present here. I was surprised, as much as this is a family show, how dark some of the humour is. Because this is very much firmly being put in the kids and family trope, which is right. But there's a very, very funny scene related to Stonehenge, which completely took me by surprise. I laughed so hard. I thought that was hilarious. And like, kid me, if I was a kid watching this and that happened, I think I would have laughed. I think, I think it's just funny enough, and they cut it just right to where it can be funny, lighthearted, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
I mean, the name that is attached to this from a on-screen point of view, Taika Waititi is in this, of course, but Lisa Kudrow is really the headline name.
Yeah.
However, I think a name that we will hear a lot of in the future is Kal-El Tuck, who plays Kevin and is brilliant. He's got great comedic delivery.
So I found, well, first off, Kal-El Tuck, great name. I mean, is he named after Superman? Like, do we know if that's confirmed or Kal-El? Like,
wow, hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah,
that would be amazing.
Kal-El. I mean, that's Superman's real name. Anyways, completely funny, like perfect casting for this. But Lisa Kudrow, out of just kind of sticking to episode 1, out of the people that we saw, Lisa Kudrow is the person I'm definitely the most familiar with. Friends, obviously, being the big thing that she was in, and it immediately stuck out to me that the character she's playing is like, it's time traveling Phoebe is what it is. She's time traveling Phoebe, and I absolutely love it. I thought I would be like, okay, all right, she's just playing Phoebe here. No, it's legitimately, if they were to cut it so that like she was stranded in New York City in the 90s and early 2000s, and she just had to blend in. She could literally, she would just be Phoebe. Like, I thought it was hilarious. So I thought she did a great job. I thought Kal-El Tuck did a great job. There's some other bad guy characters that show up in like episode 1 and stuff that I think are hilarious, and they're obviously setting up the story and stuff like that. But like, it's definitely got a really good comedic cast. I'm still getting familiar with the other people that are in the supporting cast of the quote unquote Time Bandits. They all have really great back and forth and really great banter, and it's very enjoyable just watching them bounce off of each other.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And I think we did good on skirting on some of the supporting cast, especially some of from the evil side. I think they're going to be really nice surprises for people when they do check out the first 2 episodes that are arriving this week. Just very, very quickly, technical merits, 2 big thumbs up to the sound design team on this one. Absolutely rocked my home theatre. So if you've got a full Atmos setup, or if you've got a good Atmos soundbar setup, you're gonna love this. Hell, even on AirPods Max, really, really impressive. I think one of the best sound mixes that I've heard for an Apple original this year. And that's going some, considering we've had Monarch, we've had Masters of the Air.
Masters of the Air. I forgot about that one too. Oh my gosh, the sound mix on that one was great.
Well, we will, I'm sure, talk Masters of the Air in a little while.
Yes.
But Time Bandits debuts globally with its first 2 episodes today across all of your screens on Apple TV Plus, and I think from our conversation, it comes highly, highly recommended.
Oh, 2 thumbs up. Like, it's a fun show. Like, I even think my girlfriend isn't really much into sci-fi and stuff like that, but I think I can pitch it to her as she loves Friends. I can pitch it to her as, hey, Lisa Kudrow is in this, and she's kind of basically Phoebe, and she would watch it, and I think she would very much enjoy this, and she is not a science fiction person.
Well, you know what? I think this is a great segue into exploring our movie and TV viewing habits, because I'm sure we watch movies and TV shows alone a fair bit. I'm sure we watch it with other people as well. And being the iPad guy, and I guess now the Apple Vision Pro guy as well, I'm interested to know, like, how are you watching films and TV shows right now with all of these options? Apple TV, iPad, iPhone? I'm not sure about that.
No.
Apple Vision Pro as well. So what's your preference at home?
So it kind of depends. Now that I'm not living alone, it depends on who's watching and who's home. So if it's a movie or a show my girlfriend and I both want to watch, we'll sit down in our living room. I have an LG C2 77-inch TV.
Wow.
An Apple TV hooked up to it. Yeah, so it's the full OLED panel. That was kind of my, when I moved into my last place, that was my treat myself thing. I wanted it for a while, and I was like, I got it right on sale as the C3s were coming out, so I got like a killer deal on it. I did not pay the full price. We watch most of our movies and stuff. Like if we're watching something together, we'll watch it there. I have a full Dolby Atmos, it's not true Dolby Atmos, but it's a Dolby Atmos soundbar with subwoofer and rear speakers set up, and it sounds pretty good. I like it quite a bit. If I'm on the go, if I'm like, traveling or something like that, like at WWDC, I watched an episode of The Acolyte there because I didn't want the internet to spoil it for me. So I just watched it on my iPad. It's not my preference to watch movies or TV shows on my iPad, but when you're on the go, especially the new iPads with the OLED display, yes. Gorgeous, absolutely stunning. So it was great to be able to watch it there. But if I am just watching something like by myself, like my girlfriend has zero interest in it, like The Acolyte, we'll use that as another example. When I've been home, she's had zero interest in that show. So I've watched it by myself. So I watched most of the episodes on my Apple Vision Pro because I can just watch it by myself. And the Vision Pro is great at watching movies or TV shows when you are by yourself. The minute you want to add a second person, that's obviously when it falls down. But when you're by yourself, it's perfect. I was able to have this massive screen in front of me, really good audio. I quite enjoyed that. So that's kind of like my main 3 setups, for when I'm home with other people and on the go and by myself.
I like it. And I actually have a load of questions. When it came to Atmos and soundbars, I was a non-believer for a long, long time. Then I tried a HomePod Pair, and that was pretty decent. But the kind of like soundbar with a sub, I'm amazed how well they sound now. I've recently got an LG TV in the living room, and that's where the whole family watch TV. The soundbar that came with it is incredible. Slowly being converted to something that isn't the kind of crazy, extreme Atmos surround sound system that I have.
Yeah.
The hilarious thing was I was recently putting everything together and recalibrating, and my speakers are actually now too loud and too obnoxious that my subwoofer's not recognized. So I have to upgrade that. And honestly, it's a rabbit hole that once you start going down, you can't stop. So I think you've done the right thing there. In terms of the iPad and you're on the go watching, a question I've got, because I have an 11-inch iPad Pro and I love the screen, and I personally haven't had any issues with reflections or anything like that. And when I looked at the nano textured screen in store, I felt like the detail was lacking a little bit. There were just certain things that were being lost there. But I know you are a convert to the nano texture display. I know Federico is. I think John might be going that way as well at some point in the future. Tell me about that from a movie and TV viewing perspective.
So I guess for me, it comes down to the fact that the iPad is my primary computer. It's where I work. It's where I write scripts, edit video, edit photos, things like that. So primarily for me, the iPad is a work device first. And if I'm going to watch a movie or a TV show or something like that, I'm going to go to my TV or Vision Pro. I only go to my iPad if I'm traveling. I'm on a plane, in a hotel room, something like that. So that's why it's easy for me to justify doing the nanotexture one. The nanotexture one, it's weird to explain this, but the nanotexture one works best when you have light reflecting on it. When you're in a bright space, that's when it looks better. If you're in a dark room, that is when you kind of start to lose the details and stuff like that. So if you're buying an iPad primarily as an entertainment device, I would go with the standard glossy display. if you're buying it as a work device and you're planning on working outside, or if you're like me, the big reason why I use it is I film my iPad a lot for my YouTube videos, and I have big filming lights here in my studio, and that light reflects off the display and it makes it hard to film that. The nanotexture one fixes that for me. So overall, like I said, if I was using this primarily as an entertainment device, I think glossy is the way to go. But I really do like the nanotexture for my specific use cases.
And I do love the iPad as a media consumption device, especially the iPad Pro. Pairing 2 pairs of AirPods is perfect as well when you're sharing with other people. But I want to ask about other people and like your reactions. When you show someone a film or a TV show that you really love, are you one of those that kind of like scopes out to see if the other person's enjoying it as much as you are?
Yes. So best example, my girlfriend has never seen Star Wars.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So when we started dating, I took it slow, and I've been introducing her to Star Wars. We started with the original movies, and I was kind of like scoping out, like, is she liking it? And one thing her and I have in common is we both love Legos. We love putting them together. It's kind of like our turn off our brain after work hobby kind of thing. And she started ordering like Star Wars Legos and stuff. So I'm like, yes, she likes it. She likes it. But yeah, no, we would watch those when I was at my old place. So in my condo, on my TV with the Dolby Atmos setup and stuff like that. And she seemed to really enjoy it. The interesting thing is she's one of those people that always has to have subtitles on. And I'm one of those people that I hate having subtitles on. So we kind of have to compromise there sometimes. And by that, I mean, I just turn them on and deal with it. But even with like a really good audio mix, not just using TV speakers, she just has a hard time pulling out the dialogue from like background noises and stuff like that. And no offense, British actors, she kind of has a hard time understanding them sometimes. So, yeah.
Hey, I have the same thing with my family. If there's anything like ever so southern or drawly,
okay,
she just can't make it out at all what's going on. And that's with a US accent. So, it works both ways.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think for me, it's all the Doctor Who I watch that I could just, I could pick it up. Like, it got so bad. I was watching Doctor Who for a while. I couldn't pronounce doctor with an American accent. I'd be like, I'm going to the doctor.
Oh, God.
Like, it would just that one word would come through with a British accent, and then everything else would just be American. It was so bad.
When I was visiting for WWDC, and I think it was one of the pre-event meetups, I went to a bar and I asked for a bottle of water, and I got the blankest of stares. So this isn't just through movies and TV shows. It took me 5 attempts, and in the end I had to go, water, and they were like, oh, water. So yeah. Right. It's something that transfers beyond the screen. No, I love it. For me, I just want people to be able to come into the home cinema, for example, or if someone's going to share a TV show or a film with me, more a film, I think, because obviously that doesn't take up so much time. I want it to be a phone-free event.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's 100%.
And so what I've done recently is in my setup below the AV rack, I have a drawer with chargers. So everything can be charged, and that drawer obviously closes. So I am quite specific there. And it's funny, I get kind of upset when someone doesn't like something that I really like. But I have a really weird choice in films. Like I love like some of the more recent auteurs. I love Ari Aster's work and Beau is Afraid. Devin and I have this ongoing thing because he got me to watch Taylor Swift's concert, and I said to him, watch Beau is Afraid, and that was our thing at the end of last year. That I think is probably my biggest pet peeve, having friends over to watch a film and then everyone's on their phone.
Yeah.
Or at least one person's on the phone. And then they ask, what happened? I didn't get it. No.
I kind of have a rule almost that if this is your first time seeing a movie, you shouldn't be on your phone. You shouldn't be talking. Just pay attention to the film. If you're asking like what like don't ask questions about what's going to happen. Like it's fine if you're like, okay, I didn't quite get that. Can you skip back? I'm good with that. Not to throw her under the bus, but my girlfriend's mom comes over all the time, and my girlfriend knows not to put on anything that I care about when she's over, because she will ask like, oh, what's happening? What's happening as it's happening? And I'm just like, just watch. They'll explain. That's the movie. They'll explain it. They'll explain it.
Storytelling.
Yeah, it's storytelling. But that's okay. That's okay. Love her to death. She's amazing. But yeah, we don't watch anything too crazy when she's over.
Well, I love this. I think it's pretty clear that for me specifically, I'm trying to recreate the theatrical experience at home.
Yeah.
One of the things I've done recently is, and it's purely by accident that I found this app, is an Apple TV app recommendation. It's called Now Showing Movie Poster TV, right? And actually this works in conjunction as well, if you want, for kind of fully fledged stuff with Roomy. Super niche, like this podcast, but it could be a good way of repurposing an older display or an iOS device, or even maybe an older Apple TV. Basically what it does is it displays live movie poster art for home theaters, integrates directly with Apple TV and other popular media players, and it will bring up the artwork of the film that you're watching, for example, and that can be displayed in the foyer maybe, or in the stairway up to the home theater or to the living room or something like that. And it's super, super niche. This is a subscription based, where you can pay for the year, or I think you can pay $99 to have this functionality forever. And whilst there are other ways of probably doing the same kind of thing via Mac, there's something really cool about being able to use an iPhone or an iPad to output to a screen and then have all of that happening in real time. I don't know if this is something that interests you at all, Christopher.
Yeah, one of the things, so I'm not doing too much at the house that we're currently in. We've kind of talked about this. We're going to stay here for 3 to 5 years, and then we're gonna move again, because where we're at, it's a long story and it's not interesting. But one of the things I have on my new home wish list is a theater setup, like full on, kind of like what you have, or like some of the stuff you see like on the internet and stuff like that, where I have some ideas where I'd like to be able to put in like 6 to 8 comfy chairs, something like that. People can come over or watch a movie and stuff like that. Big screen, projector, all that thing. And this is the kind of thing that I would totally nerd out over, where I could just like be like, hey, come on over, people, movie night tonight, put up the poster, have popcorn machine right outside, stuff like that. Like, I would love to do this kind of thing. It's totally niche, totally right up my alley. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I gotta say, this app specifically is something I've been looking for a while. There have been like a few kind of free ways of doing something similar, but you'd need a whole Mac involved, and that becomes quite costly. So I think there's going to be many people listening to this that have an old iOS device in their drawer somewhere, kind of just doing nothing. This is like a great idea, and not only does it support artwork in 4K and 8K, it can also support any trailers that support the QuickTime compatible video format, and it all syncs via the cloud as well. It's really, really cool. So highly recommend checking out Now Showing Movie Poster TV. Very, very niche, but a lot of fun. And talking of fun, I want to talk about Apple Originals. and the news this week behind them. There have been two really interesting reports from Bloomberg this week that have suggested that Apple are looking into licensing shows and movies from established studios to bolster offerings, not just in the US this time, but globally, whilst also they're looking into reining in spending on Apple originals with changes to spending strategy, and that resulting from the slow but positive growth in the overall streaming service share of Apple TV Plus. Recently, in fact, overtaking Paramount Plus in the US. Now, whilst 9% is probably still quite a small share, I think it's a good indicator of where Apple TV Plus is going from, a service that launched in 2019, has so many accolades to its name. This past week, the service saw a record of, I think, over 70 Emmy nominations. Everyone I've spoken to, I think it's a case of jumping in the first time, right? Very, very high critical acclaim from both critics but also general audience. But I literally spoke to a neighbour a couple of doors away who said, I finally jumped into Apple TV. And the thing that made them jump in was they had a friend from Canada over who was like, have you seen Severance yet? And he played one episode to them and they're subscribed. And from the moment they were subscribed, they kept checking out every original. And I was basically told, there's no misses on this service. And I said, oh, there are a few. You'll find them.
Yeah.
But overall, the general quality is there. Now, of course, a lot of this Bloomberg reporting covering a number of different things. First off, of course, how Apple are going to bolster the offerings for their service. Now, they trialed for a few months a selection of films recently on Apple TV Plus for US subscribers, and I think that went down pretty well, especially with Apple Vision Pro users who managed to get access to a number of 3D movies every month, which I thought was really cool. But there's also this kind of thought that things aren't growing quickly enough. I go on YouTube a lot. I saw an interview recently with Eddie Q going over exactly this, and Eddie Q's response, Eddie Q being the head of services at Apple, basically saying we can grow at a slower pace, but we want to do things right. It's very much the same with how we look at software and how we treat hardware. I see that. I'm not too sure how you see it.
Yeah, I totally kind of get where he's coming from. I never expected Apple TV Plus to be Netflix or HBO overnight. The fact that they are actually licensing stuff was kind of surprising to me. I honestly thought they were just going to do originals, but I think it's very smart of them to do licensing, like you were talking about, licensing movies and stuff like that, because how you get people in is that old comfort stuff. So
sure.
Think about Netflix streaming. Netflix streaming really took off because people could have access to TV shows like The Office that they found kind of comfortable. And then, they could watch original stuff like that amazing fourth season of Arrested Development. See, again, I'm here all week, people. But and then, HBO and stuff like that, they take off because they have shows. Paramount took off because it had Star Trek, and then it tried to do Halo. HBO
recently cancelled, right?
Yeah, which I have thoughts on that, but that's a whole nother. I could go on for that. I think the wrong people were in charge of that show, but that's a whole different thing. But Disney Plus took off because it had comfort stuff. It had Star Wars. It had Marvel. It had your childhood cartoons and stuff like that. So licensing stuff that it could get people's comfort material, because I don't know about you, but most of the time when I turn on TV, unless I'm sitting down to intentionally watch something, I just turn on something I've seen before and just leave it on in the background while I'm working or something like that. I don't, I will just have like a comfort show on, like The Simpsons or Bob's Burgers or Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Something that's kind of very comfortable to me, that like is relaxing. And Apple TV Plus, it doesn't really have anything like that, other than maybe Ted Lasso, but even then, that's just 3 seasons and 8 or 10 episodes in a season. It's not very much. Like, that's going to get repetitive very quickly.
No, it's interesting because I've found myself actually not going back to the comfort shows. I'm treating television in a different way.
Interesting.
My comfort kind of background watch now is YouTube and podcasts. Okay. Right? So that's very much, I've always got a full subscription list, right, of things to watch. And I'm very picky on what I subscribe to. So pretty much everything I'm subscribed to, I do want to see. And the algorithm works pretty well for me. And then, of course, with the current political climate, hours and hours of thoughts and content there to devour. So... yeah, when I'm looking at original shows, I kind of treat it, and you've mentioned HBO already, but I treat it like old HBO, right? In the sense of I'm very specific on what I sit down to watch, and it's a moment for me, it's an event. And that's very much what HBO always was before, of course, you know, turning into Max and having all of the Discovery content thrown in as well.
Yeah.
So they have the comfort stuff. I feel like Apple TV Plus is the new HBO in that sense. And I do wonder if they have any kind of note on if there are more people like me that exist than there are people that actually go back to watch older stuff that's comfortable, and you know how the finances kind of work in that regard. From a recognized catalog level, I can't imagine there's much out there that Disney, Paramount, HBO, Netflix, definitely not, I don't think. But what content is out there that they're willing to kind of let go, at least for a limited time? And I'm thinking specifically about TV, because whilst we've had movies already, this Bloomberg report suggests that there could be some offerings from studios with regard to television series as well.
Yeah, and it makes sense too, because like you mentioned, the Paramount stuff, like that. I think we're going to be getting to this bubble where every studio is starting to realize not every studio can have their own streaming services. People are getting annoyed. I think I just saw something about Disney Plus raise their prices again here in the US, or is raising their prices or something. Like it's ridiculous how expensive all this stuff is getting. So I really wouldn't be surprised if only a handful of these, you know, we look in 5 years or something like that, and all that's left is Netflix, HBO, Disney Plus, and Apple, but just Apple because they already have the money, you know, coming from someplace else. They can afford to stick it out. But if those are like the top main streaming services left, and they're licensing everyone else's content to get that into their streaming service as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's rumors of Warner Discovery wanting to sell Max off, and Paramount Plus just got bought by Skydance. Or Paramount as a whole got bought by Skydance.
Which is Skydance going to want to run their own streaming service or license that stuff? And I mean, if there was a streaming service for Apple to buy and, you know, a company to be able to afford to buy, it would be Max, like, or Apple to buy Max kind of thing. Like, I hate that name so much, by the way. I still call it HBO at home. I refuse to call it that.
I still have the old app for some reason on my iPad, and I keep clicking on HBO Max because that's what I search for, rather than Max.
Too. It was a much better app as well.
Yeah. I agree.
Nothing about that migration was for good.
But like HBO is an established name, Disney is an established name, Apple's an established name, but for different reasons. And of course, people on the outside that aren't, big nerds when it comes to Apple probably don't understand or aren't aware of the connections that Apple have had with the film and the entertainment industry going way back, especially, with Steve Jobs and Pixar and even more. Where do you think Apple need to go in terms of to better publicize their shows? Because I do feel like there's a million amazing series to check out, but not a lot of people know about them. And I was wondering, I think even now with Game of Thrones, House of Dragon, the thing that HBO originals have on Max and of course on the HBO platforms that still exist outside of that app, they have their water cooler moment.
Yeah.
And I always wondered why Apple wouldn't want to create their own water cooler moment in terms of setting a premiere time, maybe having a countdown, a bit like you get a premiere on YouTube for a new video, right? And then everyone's reacting in real time and creating some buzz. But we haven't really seen beyond sports a real kind of focus on live TV. So is this the missing part of the puzzle, do you think?
I honestly believe it's part of it. I think Disney Plus, they shifted their Star Wars shows to, instead of just coming out at midnight on a Wednesday, they now come out at 6 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. That seemed to have created a little bit of buzz. I saw people talking about it on Threads, Mastodon right away, Reddit, stuff like that. And just, having a show unceremoniously launch at midnight on a Friday, I don't you need a little bit of ceremony to launch something like that, especially if it's a new show. I definitely think there needs to be that water cooler moment. But also I think Apple probably needs to just, bite the bullet a little bit more. And I know there's ways to get free months of Apple TV Plus and stuff like that, but I think they need to give it out a little bit more. I think that they could do a little bit better job with the TV app. That being said, I miss the days of the TV app pre-Apple TV Plus when it was like, hey, here's a bunch of recommendations from a bunch of different streaming services, and you don't have to scroll all the way down to get past the Apple TV Plus promo stuff. But it's I think there's better ways. I think the big thing that they need to do is they need to figure out a way to get their trailers in front of more eyeballs, because trailers are really what get people to decide, okay, yeah, this looks actually pretty interesting, and then one person sees it and talks about it with their friends and so on and so forth. It's a snowball effect.
Yeah, and when it comes to trailers, I think they're probably some of the best put together trailers in the industry, and they always grab me. So provided you've seen the trailer, then I think you're going to check out the show. And this week specifically, Apple TV Plus debuted a number of trailers. Firstly, for the highly anticipated second season of its critically acclaimed drama Pachinko, which premieres Friday, August 23rd. Also came with a bunch of first look photos that we'll also have linked in the show notes. Then we had a trailer for the star-studded kids and family series Yo Gabba Gabba Land, which is premiering globally on August 9th across all of your screens. And you can find both trailers linked in the show notes, and both are ready for adding to your Up Next queues in the TV app. Also, though, coming just next week is a limited series documenting a true story of one of Mexico's most dangerous cartels and the agents risking everything to take them down, featuring money, power and horses. Cowboy Cartel, which I spoke about a few weeks ago now on this podcast, has finally got a premiere date, August 2nd on Apple TV Plus, and really looking forward to talking about that documentary series hopefully next week with Devon in tow. If your personal Up Next queue, though, includes a trip to Venice Film Festival this year, you're in for a treat. Alfonso Cuarón's Apple TV Plus series Disclaimer, which is based on Renee Knight's best-selling novel, will premiere for the first time in the world at the Venice Film Festival. The psychological thriller features a star-studded cast headed by Cate Blanchett, Kevin Kline and Sacha Baron Cohen, and will premiere with its first 2 of 7 episodes on Apple TV Plus on October 11th. A little bit of in-development news. The long-awaited television adaptation of Alice Feeney's novel His and Hers will come to Apple TV Plus following a series order which has been in the works at Jessica Chastain's Freckle Films and Endeavour Content. The project's filming schedule is currently set to take place from September 24th through to December 18th in Atlanta, Georgia. The original book followed the story of a murder in a quintessentially British village, following which newsreader Anna Andrews is reluctant to cover the case, with Detective Jack Harper suspicious of her involvement until he becomes a suspect of his own murder investigation. Someone isn't telling the truth, and some secrets are worth killing to keep. Be interesting to see how that adaptation in Atlanta, Georgia follows from the original novel. And that's what's coming, or at least in development, as well as the releases for Apple TV this week. But we also got a little bit of news with regard to Apple Vision Pro and Apple's slate of immersive video content coming exclusively to Apple Vision Pro, and really kind of remarkable where we're at already, I think, considering this platform only launched in February, and of course recently saw its international launch as well. Immersive video, for those that haven't checked it out yet and had their demo, it's a storytelling in a format that really leverages 3D video that's recorded in 8K with 180-degree field of view, along with spatial audio to transport viewers to the center of the action. Has there been a particular moment or highlight for you so far whilst experiencing immersive video, Chris?
Yeah, I think I have to go back to my early demo. So I was very fortunate to get a demo before the actual release towards the end of last year. And I just got to watch the immersive trailer that Apple put together, the original immersive video trailer, and it was just absolutely wild. And then I got my Vision Pro, and I decided, okay, I really wanted to watch this. And I didn't want to watch the dinosaur one because while the dinosaur, I did eventually watch the dinosaur one, and I just mean which one I picked first. But the dinosaur one is interesting, but it's not live action. It's not properly filmed. It's animation to look real,
yes,
which is impressive. Don't get me wrong, that's impressive. But I wanted to watch something that was like captured live. That was live action. That wasn't animated via computer. And the only one that was really available at the time that seemed kind of interesting, there was the rhinoceros one, which was nice, but there was this tightrope action one where it was this lady tightrope walking. And I think I got maybe 30 seconds into that because, ladies and gentlemen, I have a huge fear of heights. And watching 8K 180-degree immersive video on top of a mountain is very scary when you have a fear of heights. It triggered me. I think I went back to it later and was like, did the thing where I was like sitting in my office chair, grabbing the armrest to kind of like ground me, and watched it. And just the whole time I was like, this is just a video. This is just a video. This is just a video. Which the whole thing was impressive, but yeah, I like immersive video. I don't think there is enough of it right now to, justify buying a Vision Pro just for that. But the stuff that is out is very cool. I definitely more enjoy the environments in Vision Pro because I use it more of a productivity device, because the stuff that I do watch are regular, like, flat movies, not, immersive movies and stuff like that, because there isn't that much.
Yeah, well, it's about to change, Christopher, because in August, we've got Wildlife Elephants, which takes viewers to Kenya's Sheldick Wildlife Trust, where orphaned elephants are going to find their footing in the care of their keepers, frolic in frothy mud baths, and form a chosen family with each other, their human companions, and the wild elephants that roam the lands beyond. Funnily enough, the first documentary film that came to Apple Originals and Apple TV Plus was The Elephant Queen, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And so I looked at this and I thought, oh yeah, this is kind of a revisit to that. But also in the wildlife series, later this year, we're going to see a third episode where viewers will brave the deep with a bold group of divers in the Bahamas who will then come face to face with apex predators and discover creatures much more complex than often portrayed. I think we saw clips of all of these that we're about to go through in the latest immersive demo, which you do get as part of the in-store experience for Apple Vision Pro. In September, we've got Elevated Hawaii, which Elevated is an aerial travel series that will premiere this September, where viewers will fly above volcanoes, climb up and over waterfalls, and discover untold natural wonders across the world's longest island chain, Hawaii, which has me very, very excited. I know we're going to get into it in a moment, but I don't think Christopher is, considering what you've just said. But then later this year, viewers will also be able to experience a crisp autumn in New England, with a stunning journey along winding coastlines and above breathtakingly beautiful rivers. And I'm wondering, with this specific Elevated series, could you not treat this as the screensavers on Apple TV and tvOS?
This to me seems more like Apple's idea of a travel show for Vision Pro.
Yes. But I'm wondering, even though this is high up, and I guess let's get into it. You know, with a lot of these issues, you know, potentially triggering vertigo and whatnot, and just a fear of heights, is there something quite captivating about the idea of being able to step into an experience that feels so real, but know that there actually isn't any danger on the other side? And could this possibly be a cure for you, Christopher?
Nope. The only thing that would make this worse is if they did one about snakes and heights. Those are my two weaknesses. No thanks. They did. I'm just.
I have the perfect film for you.
No, don't say it. I've seen it. I got dragged to it. I was not happy. I'm on the ground. There's no snakes.
Okay, well, later this fall, though, we do have something I think that's going to be more up your alley. Arctic surfing, which is part of Boundless, where viewers can flow with a group of intrepid surfers who've moved to a frigid region north of the Arctic Circle in search of wintry waves. And before we started recording, we were kind of complaining about our weather predicaments, how hot it is with you, how cold it is here. And I swear I bring up the weather every episode because I'm British and it's a thing that we have to do. What do you think of this one?
I actually would. All the water ones you talked about, even the diver one, totally down for that. Love the water. Used to be a competitive swimmer. Very much all down with that because I can't fall. All the water ones, the riverboat one, or the New England River one. I guess not riverboat, but New England River. Those all sound amazing to me.
One of the highlights for the demo for me as a sports fan, right, was a moment where a basketball just literally bounces towards you, and I almost felt like I had to move out of the way of the basketball. And that was a clip from the 2024 NBA All-Star Weekend, which is coming later this fall, where basketball fans are going to be able to enjoy what is, of course, going to be, a world first, a unique perspective of the 2024 NBA All-Star Weekend, which took place in Indianapolis. It's going to be an immersive short film that features rising stars, the slam dunk contest, the first ever NBA versus the WNBA 3-point challenge. I'm really, really excited about this. Not a massive basketball fan, to be quite honest with you, but
yeah, same.
What immersive video does in making you feel like you're there, especially, in courtside, which is just something that, probably isn't going to be feasible for me in my lifetime. This is just a really, really cool sneak peek at, I think, what immersive video can do from a live sports perspective.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. I got to talk to. I know this is separate from the NBA app, but at WWDC, I had a briefing with the NBA team that developed their spatial video, or their Vision Pro app that gave you spatial video or video and all that stuff, and it was really cool what they were able to do with this. I will probably watch a little bit of this. I'm not a big basketball fan either. What I want is immersive video Formula One. Give me immersive video Formula One, or give me death, because that would be amazing. Like, put me in the cockpit of a Formula One car.
Oh, I think that's going to come at some point.
Yeah. Apple does have a Formula One movie coming out next year. So I would be shocked if there wasn't some Formula One cross-promotion. I think there was even that rumor that Apple was going to go after more sports, and Formula One was on the table. So that would be awesome if that was the case, because I'm spending $100 a year or $120 a year on F1 TV right now. So...
And it's kind of the least complex when it comes to rights as well, because I think all of the rights are pretty much handled in-house compared to, sports leagues and football and basketball and, everything's kind of split off everywhere, right? So there's definitely something that I could see at least, partnership forming. Yeah, I'm big into sports, but I'm also a massive, massive fan of music. I mean, who isn't, right? I think if I've ever spoken to someone and they said, I don't listen to music, that's not my person. And what I like about what has been announced for later this year is probably the headline for me is an immersive experience from The Weeknd. Now, of course, The Weeknd... He's won Apple Music Awards. He's a 7-time Diamond certified artist, and he's going to return to the spotlight with an immersive experience that's going to premiere exclusively on Apple Vision Pro later this year. And what I think is really interesting about this, and The Weeknd's always had really interesting rollouts for his albums, really from House of Balloons onwards, is that the experience is going to coincide with the release of his final album from what is a current 3-part trilogy that began with 2020's After Hours and then continued with 2022's Dawn FM. I am really, really interested to see what he does with immersive video and 180-degree immersive video, because some of the techniques and some of the effects that him and his team took on board with the launch of spatial audio really blew me away. And I think he's a forward future thinker, a real artist in a era where I would say that, pop music's kind of not as timeless as it maybe should be, considering who's been before, The Weeknd kind of put him in the Michael Jackson tier of pop artists.
I really enjoy The Weeknd stuff. I'm not a this era of music, like the current pop music and stuff like that, like it's not my cup of tea, but I really enjoy The Weeknd. I'm curious, like you said, what he does with this. These last 2 albums, especially After Hours, I think is some of the best work that's come out of this decade. And I know he got snubbed for the Grammys, and there's this whole big story and all that behind that. But I legitimately think, like, if there's any current artist that could do something really interesting with that, I think it's him. And I hope this leads to even more music stuff, but even if it's just like, hey, we captured this concert in spatial video, that would be really cool. Like, there are so many great, like, I just a couple weeks ago, I went and saw Blink 182, and they had this whole rotating stage, and Mark and Tom were moving around. Travis was, like, dangled in the air. It would have been a really cool spatial video experience.
Yeah, I think that's the thing also with just the way in which, you know, you have to really jump through hoops to get tickets for shows and that kind of thing. And Taylor Swift, of course, did something with her tour where, you know, she brought that to the big screen and people were able to experience her concert in that way, and make her art more accessible to people. I think, you know, in maybe a decade's time, when Apple Vision Pro is really kind of mainstream, or at least Apple Vision is, whatever form that may take, I think that's going to be really, really exciting. But for those that have Apple Vision Pro now, I want to see more. We've had rumours of Lady Gaga concert and Coldplay concerts already being filmed for the format. Of course, just rumours, but I think they were well-placed rumours. I think it's going to be interesting just because it's not just going to be a live show, it's going to be an experience. And that, could just mean that we're going to see the next form of the music video. Yeah. And those exciting moments, again, I'm kind of going back to Michael Jackson, but I just remember being a kid and his new music video premiering and having a rollout on, national television at a specific time. And it was something that you remembered. So I'm really looking forward to it. Of course, we have more films and concerts and sports coming, along with Red Bull big wave surfing, where viewers are going to be able to feel the power of the ocean like never before with elite surfers, which I think is going to be really, really interesting, because I loved the surf documentary series that followed the World Surf League on Apple TV. So I want to kind of revisit that world, especially on a cold day, So I'm really, really excited for what's been announced for Immersive Video. Really, really excited. Of course, all of this is going to be available in your Apple TV Plus subscription for those lucky enough. This week, we saw the premiere of the series Boundless with a ride on hot air balloon. I really appreciate the fact that you jumped into this, now knowing your fear. And I'm really interested, again, to kind of know how you felt. Did your feeling kind of ease? And did you end up enjoying it? Or was it just relief when we got to the end?
So, I'll just, the preamble for this. When I saw this was announced, I was like, okay, this is a skip. I'm not going to watch this. I know what it's going to do to me. I'll be okay. It totally triggered that for me. It totally triggered my fear of heights. I went into this sitting down in my office chair, holding on to the armrests and just watching the video and just trying to ground myself essentially. But when the hot air balloon took off and you're flying over the rocks and looking down, I'm like, okay, don't like this. Luckily, the hot air balloon never went up too high, at least as far as I can remember. It never felt like it was you can't see the ground, which I think would have been way worse for me. But it definitely triggered it for me. I will say I didn't realize this was a series. I thought this was a one-off thing. I won't watch the rest of the series, but technically it is very beautiful. There are some shots, and I definitely was the shots that when they were on the ground, putting together the balloon, I was definitely a lot more relaxed for that. So I was paying a lot more attention to that. They had this shot where they actually set up the camera inside the balloon as they were filling it up with air, which was very interesting. It was gorgeous. It was beautifully shot. Technically very impressive, but I will never, ever, ever watch it again.
All right. Well, even though I'm probably never going to be able to tempt you to shoot something in a hot air balloon, but there's a challenge that I'm going to lay down for the rest of the world. I think it would make for a killer YouTube video. I want to ask you, do you have any plans to create an immersive video as opposed to spatial video? I know you're a Canon camera user, so probably have one eye on the spatial video lens that was announced at Dub.
Yeah, so the nice thing about that spatial lens that was announced, the camera that I shoot with is the R5. The R5 Mark II was just announced like last week. I have the Mark I. Mark II will be out in August. I haven't decided if I'm going to get that or not. But either way, this lens will work with my camera currently. I didn't actually know the price until I looked in our show document and you put it in there. It's $1,100, which is a lot of money, but for a Canon lens, that's actually not that much. The lens that I shoot with is close to like $3,000. So
Sure.
That's actually not too bad. That being said, I don't have any plans right now just because the platform for it is so limited. I have a hard enough time getting people to watch my regular videos about Vision Pro. Filming videos that could essentially only be watched in Vision Pro, I think would be... It's too much time and too much money to invest in something right now. That all being said, if this was to take off and spatial video was to somehow able to come to the iPhone and the iPad, I'd be very interested in it. But right now, it's just a little too limited. Plus, from what I understand, you have to edit these spatial videos on the Mac. There's no way to edit them on the iPad version of Final Cut. So, and I'm all in on the iPad. So there's some technical reasons. There's some business reasons. It's just not quite there yet. I'm not typically, when it comes to video format stuff, I'm not an early adopter person. I am okay, let's sit back and see how a mirrorless camera goes. I'm not even shooting my videos right now in HDR because HDR processing on YouTube takes so unbelievably long. Like the last time I did an HDR video was for an iPhone review, and it took over a week just to process the HDR version of that video. Now, from what I've been told, that time has come down a little bit, but it's still multiple days in order for HDR video to get processed. And by process, for those what that means is from the time a video gets uploaded to YouTube, the video starts to get processed so people can view it in 1080p, 4K, 8K, whatever, and also HDR. 4K video processing usually takes somewhere between 15 minutes to an hour, just depending on how busy YouTube is. So the fact HDR video takes multiple days, it's just not... It's not even something that's feasible right now. So I'm kind of like, I'm waiting for that stuff to become, those workflows to get a little bit faster before I get too curious about that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, of course, we're talking spatial video, and spatial video can be like watched in normal 2D when shot on an iPhone, and I'm guessing the same will be for the format when you're using either the Canon RFS 3.9mm or the lens that isn't available yet is coming out September through December time, and that's the RF 7.8mm lens, which is specifically designed for spatial video. There's a difference between those lenses from my understanding, beyond of course the millimeter and the f-stop coverage and whatnot. But I am really interested in immersive video. Now, of course, the Canon camera lenses can't do that, but there is a specific camera that is coming that can, and that's Blackmagic Design's Cine Ursa Immersive, which is going to have the ability to do 8K 3D 180 degree format with a stereoscopic fixed lens system, mapped and calibrated and stored per eye, and of course to be able to do a image comprising of dual 8K image sensors with 16 stops of dynamic range, you're going to need a lot of hard drive space. This camera is coming with 8 terabytes built in, with the ability also to monitor on Apple Vision Pro. Now, I know from a creator point of view, you were saying, Final Cut Pro is your bread and butter. It doesn't look like, from what's been said so far, that Final Cut Pro is going to be able to handle this immersive video format, mainly because Blackmagic are going to be the first, and they have DaVinci Resolve. So I'm wondering, beyond spatial video, and maybe not, at the end of this year when the Ursa Cine Immersive does come, is immersive video and like filmmaking something that interests you? Could you see at some point in the future immersive video coming to the kind of content that you do create now?
I don't. That's a good question. I don't. Definitely not in the short term. Definitely not in like the next 5 years. Just because you're really going to need devices that can show you that immersive stuff. Yes, an iPhone can show you a flat 2-dimensional version of that, but why, like, if your primary audience is watching on iPhones and iPads, why even bother going through the hassle of shooting immersive video if you have 100 people and only one of them is watching on a platform like Vision Pro that could really take advantage of it? That's a lot of energy, a lot of work, and a lot of money that's going into something that's not going to be really appreciated by a vast majority of your audience. So I could see it, to borrow the line from ATP, on an infinite timescale, yes. At some point, we will have TVs that can expand. We will have virtual displays that can do all sorts of stuff, or we're just all watching movies and TV shows on glasses, like regular eyeglasses kind of thing. But I have a hard time seeing immersive video coming to YouTube as we know it today.
And how long do you think it would take to kind of master that new format? I mean, I love your videos, right, and what you put out now. But when would someone like you look to start creating in immersive video, or is it a case of waiting for everyone to kind of get on it first? And I guess, like, how long do you think we actually are away from like a post iPhone flat image world, considering we've got Apple Vision Pro, we've got the headset from Meta, we have those like real 3D, I think they're called, I might be wrong there, glasses as well.
I think it really comes down to when AR glasses and AR headsets become normal, because that's the only way currently I can see immersive video being viewed and appreciated, is when, hey, like, I just have my normal glasses on. Okay, I'm just clicking over to watch this video. Boom, it takes up a 180-degree field of view. I'm sitting down, I'm watching this thing, and then I could just put it away. If I had to go get a headset and like the current version of Vision Pro, great example. If there's immersive video I want to watch, I'm just going to wait until the next time I have my Vision Pro on. I'm not going to just run and go get it, because more than likely the Vision Pro is dead because the battery life is horrible. It's kind of a whole to-do to put it on. You have to like sit down, you got to log in, you got to do all your stuff. So I really think like once like AR glasses, if those ever like truly take off and they become the glasses that we think of, where they're just regular normal eyeglasses but with screens built into them as well, that's when I could see spatial video really taking off. But until then, most people have that kind of situation, I just don't see it taking off, because I don't see people investing, because it's not just like creators like me that have to invest into making the videos. We need the platform to invest in making those videos viewable, and not just viewable, but like a good experience. And I don't think that's there right now.
Is Apple the company to possibly offer that?
I don't think so. I don't think Apple will ever do like a YouTube style thing where anyone can upload to it. And like even still, like I just don't. I really don't think Apple's interested in that kind of thing.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I'm super excited for whatever comes in the future. I've got to say, I'm super excited about this camera from Blackmagic Design because they are very much like the indie filmmakers' go-to company. They really push the boundaries of what's available at a fairly decent budget. The thing that I imagine, being that this is a world first, is going to be quite pricey in comparison to, their other cameras. But this is a fixed lens system, which makes me feel a little easier on the potential price. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of tempted to buy one and start an immersive video rental house for content creators by the end of the year to just kind of see what the traction is and what the interest is. If it wasn't necessarily a video that put it this way, if there was an opportunity to create something in immersive video later this year, right, and you had that opportunity, but you weren't necessarily looking to completely shift your whole output to the format, would that be something that you would grab with both hands?
Maybe. Honestly, I don't know. I feel like this is too new, and I've never been the tools for filmmaking, like special cameras and stuff like that, have never really interested me. What has always interested me in filmmaking, and even back in like my film school days, was telling stories. And I don't have a interesting idea, like nothing I really comes to mind that would make immersive video make it special enough to where like, yes, I need to film it that way. Nothing really comes to mind for that. So I'm not the most creative person. I'm sure they're James Cameron will probably jump at it at some point. But I don't see, like, for me. So I've told this before. For me, I only have the audience I have because of YouTube. I tried blogging before. Nobody read my stuff. I went to where the people were. People were at YouTube. People are at Netflix. People are at all, these different places. So those platforms, I really think, need to support this stuff first, need to be interested. And I think Apple needs to bite the bullet and really work with YouTube and give them whatever they want as far as like making like if they really want immersive video to take off, people need to be able to film immersive video even with the Vision Pro headset, like film those spatial videos. So I know spatial videos and immersive videos, they're two different things, but they need to be able to film those spatial videos and edit them someplace. So again, Final Cut tools for Vision Pro iPad to be able to edit those tools and put them someplace. So it's all on these platforms and these companies to give creators the tools and then let the creators do their things. And right now, I just don't feel like those tools are there. Even with these cameras coming out, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I have the camera, but I don't know where to put this after that.
No, I get it. I think early days, but I am super excited for the different stories that will be told through this new format. I'm super excited for the rest of the year because everything that we announced, we didn't even talk about the original short film that's coming set in World War II on a submarine. Wow. So that's going to be very, very cool. But let's talk about this week on Apple TV with this week's releases, because along with a Prime Video redesign, which is rolling out globally from today, in the Apple TV app, we have the 2-episode premiere of our highlight this week, Time Bandits, along with a new episode of Sunny, and the finales to Presumed Innocent and Land of Women, along with later this evening the 2024 MOS All-Star Game at 8 p.m. Eastern on MOS Season Pass, and on Friday we have a new episode of limited series Lady in the Lake, and more sport. Friday Night Baseball, Texas Rangers at Toronto Blue Jays at 7 p.m. Eastern, followed by Los Angeles Dodgers at Houston Astros at 8 p.m. Eastern. Of course, you can check both out with multi-view, along with the League's Cup, which begins again on MOS Season Pass. So a packed week of Apple TV releases. Personally, really looking forward to the return of the League's Cup on MOS Season Pass. I gotta ask, as someone that, lives in the US and does have access to not one but 2 teams in your state, have you managed to get into MOS and soccer, and I guess specifically since it launched on Apple TV exclusively?
I am literally just now learning there are 2 MLS teams in California. I know nothing about it. I couldn't tell you one thing about soccer. In fact, the MLS stuff on Apple TV actively annoys me because we just constantly, when the MLS stuff happens, the TV app is just full of promotions for it. And it's just so annoying because I'm just trying to navigate around and find something to watch. And I have to jump through all these hoops to get around soccer stuff. And I just don't care.
What's in the TV app whilst you're navigating that you recommend? And what's in your up next queue kind of backlog?
So I just finished The Acolyte. That's the Star Wars shows. I pretty much, even when I'm busy, I make sure I watch them in real time because the internet sure loves to spoil things for you. So I just finished that. I really enjoyed it. We talked about it on the upcoming episode of Comfort Zone. We actually talked about it a little bit, and we all kind of came to the conclusion it's a solid 7 out of 10. And there's some fun stuff in it. I won't spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it, but there's some fun stuff, especially if you're an EU, extended universe Star Wars fan. There's some fun stuff in there. But I have been so far behind on my movie and TV viewing stuff since, I don't even remember, my girlfriend and I, we just moved into a new house together. So this whole year has just been absolutely wild. I think I said earlier the last thing I watched on Apple TV Plus was Monarch. It was actually Masters of Air. I think that came out afterwards. That because I remember watching that on Vision Pro. But I think that was the last show other than The Acolyte I was really tuning in for regularly. I'm behind on movies and TV shows because we've had moving, we've had Apple events, we had iOS, iPadOS public betas, all sorts of stuff.
And in California, good weather. So
it's been so hot here. It's literally, y'all, I'm looking at my phone right now. The high today is 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Yikes. I don't know what that is in Celsius. It's just hot.
Neither do I.
But this week, I am going to get back to watching some movies. I'm finally kind of caught up with work, taking a little bit of a breather, just got back from vacation. So I am going to, we kind of talked about, watch some MonsterVerse stuff. So I'm going to watch the new Kong and Godzilla movie. Very excited for that. It doesn't look particularly amazing, but it looks exactly what I needed to where I can turn off my brain and watch a bunch of CGI monsters beat each other up. The other thing I'm going to watch, finally, I know I'm really late to this game, Godzilla -1. It's going to be a Godzilla back-to-back movie. Or week.
You are... The nice thing is you're actually not that far behind because it only just recently came to the TV app and I think to Netflix as well. And there's a black and white version as well that I highly recommend. It's called Godzilla -1 Color.
Should I watch that version instead of the regular one, or watch the regular one then the black and white one?
Watch the regular, then the black and white.
Okay. Right.
And I promise you, it's fantastic. It really is. I'm not a massive fan of how the MonsterVerse has gone in terms of the feature films, although I really loved Monarch. But Godzilla -1 is totally my jam. I like the Toho side of how Godzilla is portrayed and the political aspects. Yeah.
The Toho original Godzilla movie series, when I was a kid, I loved those. I probably didn't read all the subtitles because I was a kid, but I absolutely loved those movies. So I'm excited to get back to like the classic Japanese Godzilla, because that's something I really enjoyed as a kid. In fact, those were probably like my first quote unquote foreign films that I ever watched. I'm also going to watch Civil War this week. I've heard mixed things about it. I'm kind of curious. I'm going to watch it. Probably not the best week to watch it, but who knows what is going to... We'll see. America, please still exist.
I've got to say, I saw it in the theatre. I have recently purchased it in the TV app as well, and I'm going to rewatch it this weekend as well. The soundtrack is incredible, and the storytelling is actually really impressive and very kind of poignant to the moment. There have been many kind of political moments recently. Of course, the attempted assassination of the former president, Donald Trump, and that was captured due to like the heroic nature of the photographer. Civil War is actually more of a film about war photographers.
Oh, okay.
And I'll leave it at that, but I think the film, seeing that a few months before and then seeing what took place a couple weekends ago at the time of recording, there's a reason why there is so much focus on that particular photo post the assassination attempt. And highly recommend. I also think I highly recommend the next pick because it's an Apple original, a recent Apple original as well.
I saw the trailer for this, but it's sunny, and it looks like it's a little bit of a mystery mixed with some science fiction and robots, and that's kind of right up my alley. So I'm going to give this a shot. I saw the trailer, and I know nothing else about it. I put it in the queue. I'm going to watch it at some point this week. However many episodes are out. I think it just came out, so I don't know if they dropped all the episodes or if it's just a weekly thing, but
it's a weekly thing.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I like when they do that. I don't like all the episode drop stuff. I like a weekly deal.
Apple TV Plus is the place to be for that. Yeah, love these picks. Now, before my pick, some other TV app highlights this week. So, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, we've mentioned this a couple of times on the podcast, Devon and I, but it's this week finally coming to Netflix, I think not only in the US, but also in Europe, so that's very cool. In terms of premium VOD, the latest Bad Boys film, Bad Boys Ride or Die, it was a film I wanted to check out in the cinema, never got round to it, just things were a little bit too busy and a little bit too chaotic in my life. Now available PVOD in the TV app, so expensive, but I think it's going to be worth it. Along with an action film of a different kind, and that's Thelma. This is a film that came to my awareness in the lead up to the Sundance Film Festival earlier this year, and it's June Squibb as an elderly lady who is conned online and then goes on a bit of a action adventure / rampage. Very, very funny. The first lead role for June Squibb as well in a storied career, so a recommendation for me there. And lastly, Femme on Hulu, cool drama, highly recommend. I love Hulu for all of the international fare that you get from their movie picks. Very, very cool. But my biggest TV app highlight this week is Primos, the first season. It's a animated story based on Natasha Klein's childhood experiences with her extended multicultural Mexican-American family, and introduces Tater, an eccentric 10-year-old girl with big dreams and, unbeknownst to her, a certain it factor that makes her exceptional. So I think there's something there for everyone in the highlights. Do I mention the second part of season 6 of Too Hot to Handle on Netflix? Looking forward to that on Friday. Maybe I shouldn't, but my up next pick this week is actually the opening of the Olympic Games from Paris on Friday. Very, very excited for the Olympics. Knowing now that you were once a competitive swimmer, is this something that you're looking forward to, and how will you be checking it out?
Not particularly. Doesn't really appeal to me. I think my co-host on Comfort Zone, Neilion, she lives in France, and she had to go into Paris a couple weekends ago, and was already annoyed dealing with all the Olympic stuff. So I kind of just feel for her that she's having to deal with it all. So I know the opening is always like countries put on like crazy openings. I particularly remember the London opening to the Olympics where James Bond and the Queen did the whole bit, and they they parachuted out of the helicopter, it appeared. But yeah, no, it was I know they always put on stuff, but it's not really my cup of tea. I'd rather watch like a movie or something.
Fair enough. I mean, my late great uncle actually believed it was the Queen. It took a while, and bless him, he's since passed on, but it was a memorable moment for us all. I love that. So yeah, I've got to say I'm going to be a little bit more positive on it. I'm really looking forward to it. I find it fascinating to see what people can do with training and what they can achieve, when you really kind of push your body to the absolute limits. And I just love the spectacle every time. So yeah, really looking forward to it. The opening of the Olympics from Paris on Friday, and then of course the Olympics carrying on throughout the month. And that's where we leave things, Christopher. Thank you so much for being on Magic Rays of Light and talking Apple TV, immersive video, lots about your girlfriend's preferences to films and TV, which I love.
Danielle, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. Please don't break up with me.
Where can everyone first hear from you, and then also see you and otherwise interact with you?
Yeah, so I am one of the 3 co-hosts of Comfort Zone here on Mac Stories. We're all on the Mac Stories network of podcasts. And the quick premise of the show is we're 3 people that really love technology, and each week we bring a piece of technology to talk about, and we challenge each other to try new things. So it's a lot of fun. I've been really enjoyed doing it. We just recorded episode 8, so it's a fairly young podcast, but we're finding our feet and stuff like that. But I also have a YouTube channel. It's Christopher Lawley, Lawley. There I talk about the iPad, apps, iPhone, productivity, automation, typical Apple stuff. And then if you're interested, where you can find me, Mastodon threads, all my links are on my website, theuntitled.site. I have all my links there. If you're interested in that stuff, you can go check that out as well.
Very, very cool. Of course, we'll have all of those links in the show notes as well. In terms of this show, you can, of course, leave us feedback over on Apple Podcasts and now Spotify, I believe, as well. And you can also contact us on social media via the links in the show notes. You can email the show or send us an iMessage to magic@macstories.net. And Devon and I will be back next week as we reunite to highlight Women in Blue, recap Presumed Innocent and its incredible finale, and talk summer movie snacks and more. So until then, stay safe, watch some Apple TV, play some Apple Arcade, and have a great week.